welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you have not seen these videos before, welcome and welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I'm just gonna roll right into it. This is an energy update. I'll be doing a light language toning and inflow message next in the next video. So for now, I just want to go into what's been going on in the collective, what I've been receiving as far as downloads. I will be doing a video this week of an interpretation of some of the writings that I've done in the last 2 weeks that I have yet to share, but a lot of people have been tapping into it. I haven't been on social media as much because I've been working. And for myself, it's challenging actually to be on social media. I'm not one of those people who's naturally just, it's taken me some work, we'll put it that way. So that's something that I'm working on. But having said that, at the end of this, I'll talk about some of the things I always talk about that I've been seeing in the collective. Some common themes that are continually coming up, not only physically, mentally, but I'm seeing it in session. And some of the things that I've been expressing for people to work on or suggesting that people work on, that's kind of across the board. Obviously, every time I do a session, it's individualized. However, oftentimes there are these common themes, and I see, 5 or 6 people that I work with who all have something that is very similar underlying. And I also recognize that that can be a collective experience that we're all in the process of shifting and processing through. So I'll get to that at the end. I want to talk just briefly about an introduction to what I'll be sharing in an upcoming video about what I've been writing about. And essentially what I've been shown, and this is a very, very basic description, that we have accessed a deeper potential, a deeper potentiality in, we could call it space. And when I wrote it out, it was S-P-A-C-E, like spread out. And I was shown some things, which again, I'll share in this upcoming video for all of my fellow word nerds out there who might be interested. But the easy version is that there were some cataclysmic events that have happened in our history that we don't know about necessarily in this 3D structure. They happened in other dimensional timelines, so to speak, and I'm just using this as a very basic interchangeable. So I invite you to be very open-minded and very open-hearted, as always, when listening to these, because this is all from my own perspective. And there are some teachers out there who have this really deep understanding of dimensions and timelines, and I'm just giving you what I understand. But essentially what I was shown is there are a group of us who are accessing this space. And this is all said from a non-judgmental and not a hierarchy. So anybody can access this, okay? But because of this, so let me back up. Based on what I was shown, there was a cataclysmic event that happened with another version of Earth. When this cataclysmic event happened, much of this information was lost. And I'm gonna get to that in just a moment. And again, this is my first attempt at sharing what I'm seeing in a very 3D interpretation. And in the next video there may be more inflow about this. But when this, we'll call it explosion, happened, there was all of this potentiality that had not necessarily been made manifest. And it was almost like it was sucked back into a bubble, we'll say. And again, my terminology, so scientific. It was sucked back into this bubble and held there in this void space. And it was inaccessible at this point, because from one perspective, and again, there's so many, but from one perspective, because of this cataclysmic traumatic event, all of that information was pulled out. It was pulled away and sealed up, we could say, so that it could not be accessed from a lower frequency harmonic. We can call that density level, we can call it dimension, whatever words we want to use. None of them are really big enough to encompass what it was that I've been seeing, but I'm going to do my best. In addition to that, much information in our soul shards was, think of like a glass ball, and think of it exploding. And if you think of a diamond glass ball and a diamond exploding, and within that diamond are all of these pieces of information, and that was embedded into these layers of the earth. I'm also being shown it was also embedded into other places, okay, in space, but that will be for a later time. We're just going to focus on Earth right now. And what has happened is all of this information held information about everything. DNA, our soul family, all kinds of things, the history of the planets. And I say planets because there are many different versions of Earth. It isn't just one. We cannot see them according to what I've been shown because we are not necessarily in that dimensional accessibility landscape, for lack of better words. So once we raise our frequency or we expand into that more expansive frequency, we are then able to see with eyes to see and hear with ears to hear through the heart as our projection tool, so to speak, that then harmonizes and allows us to see beyond the projection, the holographic representation that we have agreed to play a part in. So as this explosion occurred, all of this was not lost, although it was lost to a certain extent for a time, is what I was told. Well, now that time has come where we've essentially moved back into an arrangement, an alignment, an accessibility node, if you will, to access this higher knowing. And that's it in a nutshell. Again, I will be going into more detail if you're interested in the code, because some of this I can just say in a linear term, but the words that I use hold codes, as many other light workers that do this similar work as to what I do, to access this information. Because from what I've been shown, not everybody can access it. First of all, not everybody wants to access it. Not everybody has expanded their consciousness. This isn't a brain thing. It is literally an ascension thing. It's an expansiveness in the heart. It's allowing us to find, again, know ourselves, know thyself. And so there are a huge group, I don't know how big at this point, but a large group of individuals like myself and others watching this video who have come into this earth without certain responsibilities, and they've come in to just create, and we're starting to remember that. And I could also expand out in a multidimensional way and say we've all done that. We all have the capability of just being pure creators. But if we are manifesting quickly, it's important for us to be able to do the work in order to in order to recognize what we are creating. Where are we creating from? And again, I just recently did a video on karma, a lot of my musings on karma, and I've got a lot more to share where that came from, but essentially, are we creating more karma? And we don't have to. From my perspective, we are beyond that. However, whatever these old belief systems have that we buy into is what we are going to continue to create. And that's why it's been so important for so many of us over this last year, especially, to get out of our heads and get into our hearts. And again, I'm planning on doing some workshops. It's just that I haven't taken the time to actually put them together in a complete way. But either way, You could do heart math, right? I always talk about that. Meditation. I have videos on how to tell if you're in the heart versus if you're in the head. So perhaps I will revisit that at a later time. But it's very important for us to know thyself and to recognize what we are creating from, who we are. And so that is something that has been challenging for a lot of us to know because of all the distractions. All right, so I'll get to that. Those are pretty obvious. So we're able to access these soul shards that were inaccessible to us before. A, because of the place we've moved into in space from one perspective. B, because Earth has chosen this from another perspective. Because we have raised our frequency, or enough of us, that wouldn't necessarily be the right term, but we'll just say for linear purposes, enough of us have brought a frequency bandwidth in to this reality structure that is allowing this to happen. So for many of us that don't realize, we don't think we're doing anything, or we think we should be doing more, that's not true to a certain extent. It may be true for you, but on a bigger scale, if you're doing the right thing, fitting in that right angle, showing up, doing the work means be the change you wish to see in the world, right? It is just expressing from a heart space of gratitude, love, joy, bliss, and allowing the emotions that come up that are being cleared to do just that, and not to create from a place of anger, disdain, distrust, fear. That is work. Because we've all been so programmed and conditioned to do the opposite of that. That is work. So kudos to everybody who is working in this field right now. There are those of us, though, that are also we're all teachers, we're all light workers, we're all star seeds, but some of us resonate more with that than others. And so we've accessed this deeper space. So briefly, the soul shards that are stored, it's almost like, first of all, that's why it's another reason it's so important to get out, get barefoot on the earth, connect with earth, breathe. That's work too. Some people don't find it easy to do that, and it needs to become a habit. If we aren't taking the time to connect with our planet that feeds us, that gives us everything, then that is a major disconnect, and it's a problem. It isn't natural. And so we are being invited to be authentic with ourselves. Are we showing up? Are we connecting? Even if it's just getting that plant and putting your hands in the plant and saying, thank you. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for this exchange of energy. Thank you for the food that I'm eating. It's being conscious. And I'm bringing this back around to karma. If we are continually creating from a place of disconnection, we are not going to be aware of what we are creating. Cause and effect, I guess, would be one way of looking at it. For myself, I almost have what I like to refer to as immediate karma. If I do something, if I say something, if I think something that is not in alignment with my highest aspect, source, prime creator, love, light, or my mission here on earth, whatever label we would like to attach to it, I get immediately knocked in the face, usually. Something will show up for me. I mean, for me, usually it's a body, it's a feeling. It's just like, oh, shouldn't have done that. Let's cancel, cure, delete that. Let's erase that. Let's try this again. Or balance it out now. So I get goosebumps. I almost have an immediate, I'm hearing balance of measures. So it's a measure of, I'm seeing why I'm being shown that. So it's a measures measures imbalances. So it is measuring how much progress we're making, how far ahead we're getting from a very linear, right, 3D perspective. It's like if you're creating more of that, it's weights and balances, scales, right? It's gonna balance itself out right away because everything has shifted. It's not, from my perspective, not going to happen 5 years from now. It could happen in the form of a car fender bender. You know, you could have an accident running into something, you know, stubbing your toe 5 times that day. Usually it's a sign that you're not balanced and aligned, right? Or for myself, I'm speaking for myself. And this is something I've brought up to some people in session. I'll work with someone and I'll say, have you been having a lot of accidents lately? Have you been really forgetful? You know, I'll see it in their field because they're not dealing with some sort of trauma or karmic obligation. Again, I say this with very non-judgment, and it comes up in the form of, hey, pay attention to this. Let's balance it out now before you leave the house. Come back in, doing an affirmation, apologizing energetically to whomever it is possibly that we just said something to that wasn't in love and light. It can be really that simple. If we did that all the time, and it begins to create a habit pattern in which we don't say those things because we are setting it's almost like we're projecting our future version of us by operating in the now. Like we're already accessing a higher version of us by being present. And that projects that energy into the future rather than setting us up for more failures, disappointments, and misbehaviors. So I'm going into so many different directions here, but it's all connected. So back to the soul shards. What's happening is we're also healing a lot of these soul shard pieces of us. I was shown pieces of 8. It's treasure. Some people are doing this very consciously. I have several of my lightworker friends, people who channel, do energy work, that are doing this literally. They know that that's what they're doing. But a lot of people don't realize it. We might be having dreams about other lives, people that we were or have been in a previous lifetime or in the future. We might be having memories that come up that we are not necessarily understanding why. A lot of parallel, I don't even want to call it timelines or playing out. They've already been played out. But a lot of energy that was held in association with these particular parallel lifetimes are actually being integrated, I think would be a more complete way of describing what I'm seeing and feeling, myself included. Just because someone has cleared all of their karma doesn't necessarily mean that they've cleared all of their traumas, if that makes sense. So that's something else to recognize. Sometimes we think we've done the work, but yet it continues. Here it comes up again. Again, that's okay. We might be clearing things that we did not have access to clear before because it was so embedded within the earth, for example. And now this is all coming up, which also means we are assisting on such a deep level, on a molecular, subatomic level, that's helping us to clear our bodies, our physical bones, blood, everything, hence the physical activations and upgrades that we're feeling. I'm hearing it's a major detoxification. And as many of us know that have been on this path, detoxing comes in cycles. We're not always detoxing. Sometimes it builds up and then we flush it out. Okay, this is gonna be a long one, guys. The next level is a space. I was shown that there is a great divide going on. Yet within this great divide is all of this information coming up. So I've heard some teachers talk about this 2-world, 3-world split. I too was shown this, and this is not something I've been shown before in this way. I was shown 2 circles, and again, I'm going to do a video on this with pictures, with zigzags in the middle, almost like you would see on, what are those graphs that are used to model a lie detector test? Also earthquakes. And it was like zzz, 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 and this was being pulled apart. I think I might actually say that this is part 2 of this video. So these graphs, this information is that I've been shown is that it holds within this split all of these codes and information, again, that were inaccessible before. So if you picture 2 planets colliding and then exploding, all of this stuff is stored within it and it melts together into one. And that energy becomes so dense that it cannot escape. That is reference to what I was shown from a very linear perspective with what happened with the cataclysmic events. Of course, that can go out into space too. It has a ripple effect on all other planets, lifetimes, beings. But also it created this bubble, and some of that information was sucked out into this black hole or white hole, I'm not really sure, into this void space and time, or let's say it was ripped into another dimension. And that became inaccessible for everything within that now dropped down field. Part of that information, and you guys, this isn't just, I'm a little bit kind of talking about 2 different things here, but a lot of the information I share is portmanteau. If you look it up, that's a merge of words and information that's like basically being pulled apart. And so we're going to talk about the cataclysmic event that is being separated. And in that is all of this information that's able to come up. It's creating a space where it was so dense, we could think of the densities or the dimensions, right? Before it was inaccessible, so now it's coming out. And I was told that basically through this great divide, we're then able to use that information that was inaccessible before, okay? This also is we're seeing this on a political, social, economic scale, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. All of the stuff that we see in our world is merely another version of what's happening on a subatomic layer from one perspective. So it's like cell mitosis. It would be a good picture of what it looks like. So the cells separate, but then what I was shown is then they're going to merge and come back together. But it won't be an explosion and a density. It'll be an implosion. And by the way, again, non-judgment, this was an implosion. What I mean is it's a creation. So instead of an uncreation or a breaking down, it's a building up and expansion. So this separates to create more space for all of us, and then it merges back together. And I also saw even a third energy come from this, and that may be another video. So I was seeing, just like when you see cells mitosis, when they become 2 cells and then they become 3, but they're all connected, much like the flower of life symbol. And again, some people say that this symbol was misinterpreted. I'm just giving you that so you can visualize what that might look like. 3 spheres, all 2 of them separating, birthing a third one. Think of that as the Trinity, if we wish, right? All reconnecting. Because of these events, it was disconnected and unable to reattach, or it was so mushed together that we couldn't differentiate, or we couldn't feel the oneness of it because it was so transmorphed, I guess. So now this think of this separation and all this information coming up to be exposed, and that's a whole other level. So all of it's going to come up, and then it allows us to re-emerge back into a bigger, better, stronger, more expansive version of us, Earth, so on and so forth. And so it's very interesting. Now, moving on. So we're going to see a lot of information continuously begin to come up, and it is not over. So for those of us who think this is just the tip of the iceberg, what I'm hearing is it's just the tip of the scales, because it's literally, it has to balance out. So I'm going to go back to the information that was stored in this other place, okay, that we did not have access to. Because things were so dense, this ability to create certain things was inaccessible. When you're in here, it's like a video game. When you're on level 2, we cannot access all of the cool jewels and mushrooms and treasures that are up on the next level. You can only access the treasures that help you get to the next level. And again, this is linear. This doesn't mean it wasn't accessible. It just is more so now. Some people may have always been accessing this. And I was also shown it's almost like another Akashic record. It's like another piece of the library that we've not had access to before. It was off limits because of certain limitations that had been placed upon where we are, or we placed upon us. It's almost like don't give a certain toy to a child who really doesn't know what they're capable of, because they can hurt someone. Or it can be used for the wrong reasons. That would be a 3D, 4D representation of what happened, okay? But from a higher perspective, it's just physics. It's just energy, because a cause and effect, balancing out the scales. So as this information comes up, we will start to know more about ourselves. We'll start to remember more about ourselves. We'll start to possibly feel more about what it is we're here to do, or so on and so forth. Again, this comes with physical, mental, emotional. We might be going through another wave of feeling like we just need to cry, feeling like we just want to go within our cave and retreat to allow our, so I'm being guided to talk about old wounds. You know, if an animal is wounded, it goes and, I just watched this amazing movie called My Octopus Teacher. Everybody should watch that. It's such a good movie. I will never eat octopus again. Not that I eat them. But what I'm sharing is that they are, if it's like a starfish, if you cut off their digit, they will grow it back. But they have to retreat. And sometimes when we're going through this process, in order for us to grow into the next layer of expansion, of expression, we have to retreat. We have to go back into the cave so that we can receive the healing that our body is capable of self-healing, and also so we can kind of process, right, what's going on. This is a little bit about what happened to this energy, we'll say this piece of the library that was put in a bubble. It was almost like all of that information had to be sealed so that it had time. It's like a time capsule, right? It's like do not open until 2020, essentially. And that's only if we have accessed this particular field of consciousness that is the node, that is the key in order to unlock what it is that we've now accessed and unlocked. So we're really being invited to be mature about this, but also do operate from our inner child. So meaning we really are being invited to get out of our heads and utilize our inner child playfulness. That is one of the only things that will unlock this particular place of knowingness. And also, it changes our interpretation of it, and it allows us to then get out of that tunnel vision of, well, what does it mean? Well, why am I feeling this way? It's like, man, I need to go outside and play. I need to go do some yoga, which I'm going to do today. Practice what I preach, right? There's so much more information that came through in code, which I will be sharing with you guys. About this place that we're accessing, this void space. It is also a mother energy, by the way. I've gotten that as well. And a lot of people have been talking about it. It's a mother energy that is essentially gifting us the opportunity to heal as these wounds are exposed. There are going to be truths that are going to be very distasteful and disdainful. They're going to taste bitter, and I've been shown that many people are going to feel disheartened because of these revealings. I mean, many of us who've been on this path have seen a lot, that we've already gone through that. And I'm kind of at that space now where people will reach out and be like, can you believe this? And it's not that I don't care, because I do. It's that my mission is not to those truths will be exposed. They have already been. We just aren't seeing the trickle echo effect yet. And there are plenty of people out there that are working towards that. That is their mission. My mission is to create from this creatrix energy now. And that has shifted for me. And it's shifted for a lot of us. Some of us, we began doing tarot cards. Some of us, we began doing psychic readings. You know, some of us began by doing massage and Reiki. For me, I've utilized all of that to do what I'm doing now. And it keeps expanding. This is just the beginning. I keep hearing so much more about this. But anyways, I'm going to end on that note and go. I've already mentioned the fact that many people will be experiencing, again, physical symptoms, dreams that are not necessarily pleasant, or that remind us of atrocities that were perhaps we participated in, or we were subjected to long ago or in the future. And it's really important for us just to recognize that that's being healed. It's in the process of being revealed so that it can be digested, integrated, and utilized for our greater expansion. And I invite everybody to see everything that we're experiencing as such. If we look at things through a bigger picture of forgiveness for ourselves, and forgiveness isn't even the right word, but coming back to a place of neutrality, that is key, because the more neutral we are, not from an uncaring way, not from a I don't care, I'm just neutral. That's a different kind of neutral. I'm talking about seeing, integrating, digesting, feeling. It doesn't mean that we're neutral all the time. We still are human with our starseed DNA as a hybrid, so to speak, and we are here to experience the human reality, which does involve emotions. So those are important for us to pay attention. Our body, our skin suit, is a living technology that gives us clues as to what